Don't worry, I'm not going to read PowerPoints. When I took accounting, intermediate accounting, that's what my instructor did for 3 hours every Saturday morning. He read every single PowerPoint. It was great. I took the course so I could learn how to teach. Kind of learned how not to teach. But anyway, I thought this one would be good. Okay, so time value of money. We're up to chapter 6. This is nobody's favorite chapter, but we have to understand the concepts here. The good news is that probably you are never going to have to use these interest tables ever again, because you can just go to the internet and go, calculate this, and it will happen for you. What we're trying to accomplish here in doing the tables is to give you an understanding of how they work, what are the principles involved, so that you know what the calculator is doing. Because if you put wrong information into a calculator, you're going to get a ridiculous number out, and unless you have the basic concepts, you won't know. So we have to suffer through this chapter. Okay, so as far as the time value of money goes, if say you loaned your brother $1,000 today, would you rather have it back, soon, or 3 or 4 years from now? Does it matter? Is money just money? Well, of course the answer is no, it's not, because you could have done other stuff with that money instead of loan it to your brother. You could have invested it, you could have lost it all at Mohegan's Sun, any number of things. So you have the concept of opportunity cost. It's like, what else could you have done with this instead? Basic idea, money has a time value. Money today is worth more to you than money down the road. So there's the trade-off between having the $1,000 now and the, and 3 years from now, it really depends on the interest rate. So this whole chapter 6, time value of money, is an important topic in accounting. You will not be able to avoid it if you're going into accounting. Property, plant, and equipment, you run into it there. Long-term notes, receivable and payable, bonds payable, leases, pension obligations. It's a fact of life, okay? But in life, it can also help you. And this is where you could go into the car dealer and you could pay a certain amount for the car today, or you could do a payment plan. You could do 6% financing over 2 years and pay only $532 a month. Well, which is really better for you? Which is going to be, what is the cost of doing that? With understanding of the time value of money concepts, you can figure that out. If you just had a kid and you want to have however much it's going to cost in 18 years to put that kid through college, how much do you need to be saving now to come up with $100,000 18 years from now? Or you may be 20 and someday you will be old. Do you want to retire with a lifestyle instead of a life? In which case you should be putting away money for your retirement. Okay, down payment for a house. You can answer questions like, how long will it take me to save up the $30,000 down payment if you put away so much each month? These are all the types of questions that you can answer using the time value of money. Okay, so the nature of interest is just the payment for the use of the money. The interest rate that occurs depends on really the credit risk of the person doing the borrowing. Chances are if there's more risk of non-payment, the interest rate is going to be higher. If the entity is less risky, lower interest rate. So the variables in computing interest, and this takes us back hopefully for review, principal times the rate times the time. And that is simple interest. And that's often used for short-term transactions. You're just paying interest for the use of the money. So if you loaned your brother the $1,000 for, at 5%, to go 5%, and you loaned it to him for 1 year, you'd simply go the principal of 1,000 times the rate of 5 times the time of 1, and you would pay he would pay you $50 interest on that loan. So when you grant the note, you'd have a note receivable of 1,000, and you'd give your brother the cash. So, And then when your brother paid you at the end of the year, he'd pay you the $1,050, and of that, the $1,000 would pay off the note, and the other would be your interest revenue. So now, if the note were more than a year, and say it was a 3-year note, you'd do the same thing. And I'm sure this is review for most of you, but we'll do it anyway. So a 3-year note, you would simply go the principal times the rate times the time, and for a 3-year note, okay, so this is the 3-year note, this would be a 1-year note. And then if it was, a 6-month note, okay, so if you do a 6-month note, you do the same 1,000 times the interest rate. Notice it's always based on the annual interest rate, and this would be times half a year, or it comes out to that. So you would calculate the interest based on that. So that's your simple interest, okay? Used for short-term transactions, and most business transactions are going to use compound interest, which is what we get to next.